So thank you all for coming. It's fabulous to have you all here for our inaugural launch of the new Zoom room with the Electric Mermaid, coming to you courtesy of Char's Landing in downtown Port Alberni, the literary navel of Vancouver Island. And I should mention we're on the unceded territories of the Sishat and the Hepetcheset tribes, to whom we are forever grateful for sharing their land with us. And yeah, so I'm really glad to see so many people here and so many people signing up to read. It's going to be an interesting night. We've got our two featured readers, of course, our local grown Bruce Hornidge and Janet Miller up in Courtney is going to read for us as well. And just a reminder that we've got a 5-minute time limit on things. Char is we're grateful anyway, graciously agreed to do the timing. So she's going to just sound a little chime when we get close to your 5-minute mark. So you know you've got to wrap things up really quick. And then there'll be a big cane will come out at 5 minutes and pull you out of the screen. Won't be that bad. But do try to stick with that. If you have something that is longer that you want to read, just let Karl know when you email. And maybe if there's time, we can figure out a slot for you that evening if there's not that many readers, or we can look at maybe putting you on for a longer period the next time, or making a featured reader out of you or something. So we're always looking for featured readers. So I also just want to say that we are a community-driven organization, but we're trying to broaden things out and give this even an international scope. So if you know readers, or writers, I should say, that live across the border or anywhere else in the world who'd like to join us, let us know and we can reach out to them and line them up. We strive to be an organization that welcomes writers of all calibers. You know, we don't want to be discerning in terms of, oh, well, you're not published or not this or not that. If you enjoy the literary arts and you're looking for a place to share your work, then we welcome you here. The thing we don't welcome here, of course, is hateful speech or disrespectful behavior. Not that I'm expecting that from this crowd, but we do need to mention that right away up front. So zero tolerance when it comes to that stuff, for sure. So my name is Hanebury, and I'm here in Port Alberni. Most of you know me, and those of you who don't, I hope we get to meet in the flesh someday, and maybe even at Char's Landing, and have a glass of wine together and get to know each other would be wonderful. Someday in a post-pandemic world, may it come soon. Hooray, hear ye, hear ye. I do also want to mention that we've got Karl Kjorven, who is our guy there that is our techie, who works with Char very closely to keep everything ticking along. And he's the one that will receive your email if you send an email to ask to be on the reading list. And of course you can get that at Char's Landing, but I have Jackie, I'll get you to post that in the chat, if you wouldn't mind. And I don't know if everybody knows about the chat, but down at the bottom of your screen, there is a little chat with a bubble above it. If you just click on that, it will pop up at the side of your screen. And so we can post things there, and you can post to other people. You can post private messages to other writers or readers. You can also hit everyone and send out a group message. So it's charslanding.com is where you go to get the link to come to here, as you probably all know. But it's Electric Mermaid reading or readers.com. How's that go?
The email?
At Gmail, yeah.
Oh, oh, you got to be thinking here.
Yeah. All right. I'll have to go to my notes.
I can't remember. I should know it off by heart.
I put it in the chat. Electric Mermaid Reads.
There it is. Electric Mermaid Reads. Okay.
Gmail.com. Okay.
Gmail.com. Thank you very much.
Here, if you don't want to write that down, and the back there on the left right hand side, there's a thing called file. If you click on it, it can save the chat. So you just press save and it will save all that stuff. So you don't have to sit there and try to write stuff down.
Excellent. Good, good. We teach each other. Perfect. All right. So I want to just say thank you to Karl for helping us out here for all he does. I want to say thank you to Jackie for all you do to publicize things, to get the press releases out, to line the featured readers up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Huge thank you to Char for being the host, and for all of you who have been to Char's Landing, you know what a cultural hub it is for Port Alberni and what a fantastic space it is. So I want to just remind you that in this time of the pandemic, that any donations you'd like to make to Char's Landing would be most welcome. And you can e-transfer to her, and Jackie, I'll get you to put the email that you need to use for the e-transfers in the chat. Thank you very much. And, you know, send her a little bit of money to keep things going, because we got to keep this place alive. One day this pandemic will be over, and we're going to need those spaces to welcome us all back again. So we're really grateful to Char for hanging in there, and we need to do what we can to support her. So grateful for that. And we also need to thank Micah Gardner, who's our resident photographer, who I think took the pictures of Luma, who is the Electric Mermaid, hanging at Char's Landing. For those of you who haven't been there, she's a virtual goddess that's suspended from the rafters there, a work of art. And they have, like I said, Colleen and friends have transformed her, done a makeover on her, given her new hair and everything else. So I would just want to acknowledge the work that those people from Arts Rave have done. It's really wonderful. And so I want to say directly thank you to Colleen Clancy, to Gillian Main, to Guy Sisson, to Laurie Blakely, Aaron Riding, Tamas Alatny, Teresa Kingston, Micah Gardner, of course, and Grant Gibson. So thanks for that makeover. Luma is going to soar for years to come now, thanks to your TLC. On top of that, we need to thank the Writers Union of Canada, because they help support this, because any writers that read here who belong to the Writers Union are eligible to get paid $120 for the reading. So it's a win-win for everybody. So we're grateful for that. And of course, the Canada Council for the Arts is behind us as well. So that's, I think, all the thank yous for the moment. And I'm just going to check my notes to see if I missed anything. Jackie, did I miss anything? I think I got it all. All right. We're here, we're good, we're grateful, and we're going to get started now. So let's hear some good reading. So Pat Buckna from Powell River, I believe, right, is going to start us off. And Pat, if you want to unmute yourself, and I believe it's prose that you usually read, so we're looking forward to it.
All righty. I'm going to take you back to 1965 in Calgary. 17th Avenue was a street where everything happened. You could live in elegance at the Devonish Apartments, listen to country music broadcasts from the studios of CFAC Radio 1, buy groceries across the street at Safeway or Jenkins, fill your prescription at Higginbotham's, or get Marcel to pierce your ears, or let Alice Buckna, the relative of your father you never did meet, try to teach you accordion at the Calgary School of Music, across the street from the apartment where you lived. Everyone who lived east of 10th Street went to Western Canada High School. Those on the west side went to Central. You could have gone to Western too if you hadn't moved to a new subdivision on the western edge of the city. Elementary students on the south side, like you, went all the way up 14th Street Hill to Mount Royal, 9 blocks away, while north siders went to Connaught. Catholics, like Larry Robinson, went to Sacred Heart. Really sick kids would be admitted to the Alberta Children's Hospital up the hill, but you'd spend all of grade 6 near the opposite end of 17th Avenue at the Holy Cross Hospital, close to the Stampede grounds. If you had a dirty suit or stained dress, Dollar Cleaners would sanitize and press it and give you a free 2,000-year perpetual calendar when you picked it up. The experienced mechanics, Larry and Al, at Al and Larry's Texaco station would service the car you bought straight off the lot at OK Used Cars. Their gas jockeys would clean your windows, empty your ashtrays, check your oil, and fill her up with super before you drove down the street to have it hand washed and waxed at the Rocket Car Wash. If there was too big a lineup at the DQ, you could drive the extra few blocks to Model Dairies and order a double scoop from their selection of over 200 flavors of handmade ice cream. Bashford's was the place to buy a fine antique. And if you needed to replace your worn-out King James Bible, the Christian Supply Store would give you a reduced price on a Good News edition. The Mount Royal Market, 2 doors down, would even sell you 2 dozen eggs on Halloween night if you didn't tell them you were planning to pelt cars on the 8th Street Hill or huck them at Mike's neighbor's porch window. You couldn't wait to turn 18 or become a tall 17 before you could buy a Mickey at the ALCB liquor store. Until then, you'd have to settle for one of your paper route customers to give you enough empties to cash in at the bottle depot. If you had a quarter, Old Man Balding would exchange it for 10 Jawbreakers, 2 double bubbles, 5 licorice ropes curled in a paper bag, and your choice of a dripping Royal Crown Cola, Dad's root beer, or Fanta Orange that you pulled from his icy water-filled cooler. The Shamrock Cafe made a decent grilled cheese sandwich, but Jimmy's had a blue plate special on Saturdays until the big fire in January destroyed the whole Condon block. The street was closed for 2 whole months after the firemen had put out the blaze until all the ice sheets that had formed in the minus 45-degree weather crashed to the sidewalk and finally melted. When they weren't standing watch in front of the A&B Hardware, pairs of Jehovah's Witnesses would gather with others at the Kingdom Hall. Congregations filled Grace Presbyterian, Scarborough United, and St. Mary's Cathedral every Sunday. Naval reservists fell in line at Tecumseh Barracks. Hash eaters, pot smokers, and acid heads converged most nights for pizza and Mexican at Primo's. And the sharks at Eddie's Pool Hall were always willing to let you lose at your choice of either billiards or 8-ball. There wasn't much you couldn't find on 17th Avenue, but when you needed more, like a movie theater or a record shop, you could always catch a trolley downtown or travel much further, even as far as Bowness.
Awesome, Pat. Thank you so much. That took me right back, even though I didn't grow up in Calgary, but a lot of the references were relevant to across the country, I think, to those of us who grew up back in those days. All right, I've got Jackie on as our next reader here. Yes, reader number 2. Jackie's all ready to go. Take it away, Jackie.
All righty, indeed I am. And I just want to mention a couple of things. First of all, I did look up the address and I put it in the chat there. If you'd like to make a donation, it'd be greatly appreciated on our behalf. Donation to Char's Landing, which is this cultural hub, and it's e-transfer at charslanding.com. And so we'll keep that in the chat. And the other thing I wanted to mention is I forgot to say that we thank the Alberni Valley News, who are very consistently highlighting us and putting our people in the paper. And we're so grateful to have a good local newspaper. So that is my spiel. All right. And yes, Pat, I thank you very much for that. That sounds like exactly like me growing up, just not in Calgary. So great memories there. All right. I'm reading from my new book that was published 2 weeks ago, basically 2 weeks ago. And it's Heard Amid the Guns, True Stories from the Western Front, 1914 to 1918 by Heritage House. And this is called Baby Talk, Conscientious Objectors. The voracious war monster must have bodies. As stories drifted back to the home front about the grim realities of the Great War, more widows donned weeds, which means to wear mourning black. More telegrams caused households to go dark with mourning. There are voluntary enlistment flags and turns into the draft. Those who resist volunteering are shamed with white feathers, called out in public meetings. Conscientious objectors, publicly mocked as unmanly, are called anything but conscientious. They're imagined as a ridiculous cartoon created for a Wimmero nurse's autograph book by an injured soldier with his artistic streak intact. See the snowflake of his day, shiny patent dress boots, an eiderdown quilt in his blanket roll, a baby soother close at hand, a hot water bottle nearby, tea and sweets and insect powder ever handy in pockets. Handfuls of men were exempted for religion, Quakers, Mennonites, Doukhobors. Some were exempted for critical occupations like farming. Someone has to grow food for the troops. Some resisted the call to arms in light of horrific casualty rates. The absence of a uniform frequently brought shaming, delivery of a white feather, hostilities, mocking, bullying from some of those whose husbands and brothers and sons were at the front. Those who willingly fought were pressured to scorn those who wouldn't. The degree of resistance sometimes determined the official treatment. Many were subject to brutality, hard labor, prison. Some stood in harm's way, treating the wounded on front lines with the Friends ambulance, operated by Quakers who refused to raise arms, but others grimly concluded that as medics, they were still enabling war. And early flurries of enlistment stalled mid-war. The questions loomed large for recruiters: how to get men to fight when the word was out on war's brutality and carnage, told in blood-bathed forest in never-ending lists of those killed in action, missing in action, or dead of wounds, not to mention poison gas. How could family men and students be lured from their warm, cozy homes in St. Catharines to head straight for the decimation of a generation? What might induce them to pick up a bayonet and really use it? Because there's no using a bayonet halfway. Rumors of Hun savagery helped. Propaganda was a powerful tool. A rumor spiraled into an unprovable legend and jagged art of a Canadian crucified on a barn door. In his book, Private Pete, Private Harold R. Pete claimed, the Germans caught and crucified 3 of our Canadian sergeants. Now, I did not see them crucify the men, although I saw one of the dead bodies after, he wrote. I was told that one of the sergeants was still alive when taken down, and before he died, he gasped out to his saviors that when the Germans were raising him to be crucified, they muttered savagely in perfect English, "If we did not frighten you before, this time we will." The book was adapted to a film in which Pete played himself. The movie was used for recruitment. Posters printed by the tens of thousands called for new recruits, appealing to everything from pride to ethnic roots, Irish, French, British, to bolster flagging enlistment. What happened in Belgium could happen here, they were warned. Your motherland won't forget you, said a poster illustrated with a beautiful woman draped in a flag in a close embrace with a Canadian soldier. Another poster showed drowning civilian victims from the sinking of the ship HMHS Landovery Castle. Ultimately, it was peer pressure that really applied the thumbscrews. The women were pressured to pressure their men and their sons. An American recruiting poster portrayed a lovely, proud American mama offering up her son to the altar of war's sacrifice. America, here's my boy, it read. A bounty went out for new recruits. Shame and positive appeal to manhood and ego were the most powerful motivators of all. A recruiting poster from the recruitment office in St. Catharines, Ontario, urged men to be British, play the man. It offered comradeship and protection of men from your own city. If all else failed, there was an appeal to their pride and desire for visual status. The latest and best style of clothes is khaki. Get it on and show your manhood. Dedicated to University of British Columbia students overseas, the UBC Annual comes into being at a time when stirring deeds are the order of the day, a time so momentous that never before during all the history of the ages has the world been called upon to face so grave a crisis, when all the carefully built up fabric of Christianity seems to be tottering to its fall under the scourge of the most ruthless and sanguinary people that the world has ever known, whose deeds of brutal savagery make the atrocities of their barbarian ancestor Attila seem mild by comparison, and even eclipse the madcap antics of Nero, the fiddler, whose deeds have long been regarded as the high water mark of human depravity, reads a note from the editor. At such a time as this, we naturally ask ourselves the question, what is the University of British Columbia doing as its share in helping to save the world from this threatened catastrophe? Long and high, loud and high, the answer comes. On the blood-red fields of France and Belgium, on the desert wastes of Mesopotamia, in the realm of the Great Bear are the men who formed the first classes of this university, cheerfully laying down their lives in defense of the sacred cause they hold so dear. And although the UBC is the youngest university in Canada, not one can show a more splendid record. We have indeed. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Jackie. Yeah, that I don't know exactly what happened there, but I guess you were going over time. So Karl ended you up there. Thanks for ending so graciously. All right, that's a perfect lead in for our next reader, our first featured reader of the night, actually, because Bruce Hornidge is going to read about his trip to Dieppe and the impact that had on him. So that's an ideal warm-up. Thanks for that. So Bruce Hornidge hails from Port Alberni, and I was really happy to see him sign up as a featured reader. We've listened to him over the years, and I've read some of his writing, and he's got such a good eye for detail and a good ear for dialogue and an understanding of human character and how to portray it in writing. So I'm really looking forward to this, Bruce. And Bruce is he was a logger for much of his life, and obviously a keen observer of human beings and life itself. So I'm really looking forward to what you have to read here, Bruce. Take it away.
Yeah, this is a story from my trip to Europe in 1999. I visited the battlefields at Dieppe. I picked up a rock off one of the beaches from Dieppe, and the cemetery area too. Anyway, this might run a little bit more than 5 minutes, but we'll give her. Pilgrimage to Dieppe by me, Bruce Hornidge. Leaving the timeshare apartment at Cromer on the Norfolk English coast, we two couples were determined to drive our Opel station wagon into France, visit Dieppe, and get to Paris before midnight. That was the heady plan to begin our fourth week of a European holiday in April. However, travel plans are often affected by interrupted surprises and troubling obstacles. South of Norwich City stands an 80-foot stone column which appears at a break in the tree-lined forest beside the highway. Such edifices to a battle or a local noble dot the English countryside. This is an old world steeped in tradition and rich in history. Photo opportunities abound. We motored past London on the M25 freeway and followed the M20 until it petered out at the channel port of Dover. Dover is famous for its white, they're actually gray, cliffs, but also it commands castles, radar towers, and airfields critical to the defense of England during the Battle of Britain in 1940. I'm a World War II buff, and driving through the Kent countryside, I could visualize the swirling contest in the sky. Hurricanes and Spitfires clashing with Messerschmitts, Focke-Wulfs, and Heinkels, trailing vapor or smoke trails, locked in mortal combat for control of the heavens. "You have no ticket reservation?" said the ticket agent at the hovercraft ferry terminal. "We are booked until 4:30, sailing, mate." "Okay, we'll discuss our options," said Dave, the other husband in our foursome, and 3 sets of eyes turned to my wife. "It's your call. We can wait 4 hours for the boat or take the channel." Many people grow up with long learned fears, such as tunnels and water, which control their enjoyment of life. The channel is both. It is a hole in the ground for 28 kilometers beneath the waters of the English Channel. My wife had already faced some of the long highway tunnels through the Alps. The prospect of the half-hour passage under the water of the channel did not sit well with her. She smiled, stared out the window, shuddered a deep breath, and decided, I can do this. We queued at the Channel Terminal in Folkestone, then drove the Opal onto a train. This is a metal tunnel with aluminum doors that section the main train into cubicles of 6 to 9 autos in each. One almost wants to say, moo, at our situation. You are requested to remain in your car for the half-hour ride to Calais, France. You cannot see anything inside this well-lit metal coffin. Only feel a downward rush, then upwards back into the sunlight. Hundreds of years in the dreaming stage, the tunnel took decades to construct as a land link for the peoples of Europe. South of Calais, we pulled off the motorway into the Canadian War Cemetery at Cape Grisnez. This cemetery is extremely well groomed, which indicates the dedication of the liberated countries to honor Canada's sacrifice in war. 600 pure white marble stones mark the gravesite of Canadians and Allied soldiers, airmen, and seamen that died there clearing the Channel coast in 1944. The Canadian Army, after sprinting from the Seine River to Ostend and Antwerp in Belgium during the first 2 weeks in September, they fought hard battles for another 4 weeks to clear defended towns of Le Havre, Boulogne, and Calais. Also, they captured the large naval guns emplacements at Cape Grisnez. Those guns control free passage of ships in the English Channel. The 1st Canadian Army consisted of 2 Canadian infantry divisions, 2 British infantry divisions, a Polish armored division, and a Canadian armored division. Had grown into a powerful force. Cape Grisnez War Cemetery is small compared to the ones in Italy and Normandy and in Holland. We drove across the flat plains behind the Pas-de-Calais and the Somme provinces of northern France towards Dieppe. I could visualize the lines of vehicles and troops streaming towards the German border during the heady September advance of the Allied armies. Stopping for dinner at the shopping mall outside of Dieppe, we had a panoramic view of the port and the Arcs River, the fateful cliffs flanking the town and the hazy channel beyond. We drove into town along the east side of the river to a ferry terminal below 30-meter cliffs. Remnants of several weapons bunkers are dug into the stone. A severe traffic snarl precluded us from crossing the river onto the main battle beach in front of Dieppe town. However, motoring at the top of the eastern headland, I could understand why those cliffs were the main firing positions from which the Dieppe assault was slaughtered. The raid at Dieppe on August 19th, 1942 was the most remembered Canadian battle of World War II, and caused the most casualties in a single day to the Canadian forces in that war. Flanking the main assault, 2 British commando units successfully attacked heavy artillery gun positions 10 kilometers east and 10 kilometers west of Dieppe. Though incurring heavy casualties, the commandos were evacuated back to England. At Pourville, 4 miles west of Dieppe, the South Saskatchewan Regiment and the Cameron Highlanders of Canada battled ashore. The assault troops were strongly countered by the German defense and evacuated with heavy casualties. They were unable to capture those western cliffs above the main Dieppe assault. That assault by the Calgary Regiment of Tanks, the Royal Hamilton Light Infantry, and the Essex Scottish of Canada was brutally slashed by the defenders within stone houses of Dieppe. Battling their way into the town, the troops were pummeled by a hurricane of shellfire from the gun positions on the commanding cliffs. Those guns virtually destroyed the reinforcement boats of the Fusiliers Mont Royal and a company of British Royal Marines. The evacuation was shot to pieces and casualties were appalling. The main beaches of Dieppe were a perfect view from where I stood on those eastern cliffs. So too in 1942 was the view of the gunners of a heavy weapons company of German troops looking east. I could see a group of houses on the beach. This was the resort town of Pouilly. This was the landing beach codenamed Blue at the Dieppe raid plans. Canadian assault troops were to land at Pouilly and capture the headlands where I stood. If this assault failed, the whole operation would be in jeopardy. We drove up a narrow gully and parked on the seawall above a stony beach. An epitaph wall, 4 meters high, 15 meters long, simply reads, "On the beaches of Pui in front of you, the Royal Regiment of Canada died." The left side of the wall incorporates a defending bunker with 3 other weapons pits still evident along a steep slope to a building atop the eastern cliffs. The western slope is scrub bush leading to the escarpment, which was the Royals' objective. The beach is about 25 meters wide, 100 meters long, closed off by a high 5-meter seawall. The Royals landed just after dawn and became trapped against the seawall. They were overwhelmed by bullets and by artillery shell fire from the surrounding heights. None of them crossed the seawall unscathed except as prisoners later in the afternoon. A few soldiers battled through the western scrub, climbed to the escarpment before being captured. Except for a few swimmers, only the troops aboard a heavily machine-gunned assault boat managed to get away. Excuse me. Terrence Robertson, in his book Dieppe, The Shame and the Glory, titled the chapter describing the Blue Beach assault as an abattoir of Pui. Abattoir is a French word for slaughterhouse. Caught in the amphitheater of Pui, the beaches, the Royal Regiment of Canada was in a few hours shattered, chopped up, and forced to surrender. They incurred 95% casualty, dead, wounded, and captured. I kept a memento, that rock stone from that beach. It is heavy for its size and chipped. Exiting Dieppe, we turned into Rue Canada and Parkway to the cemetery for the Canada's war dead. It is simple to describe this cemetery. It is an immaculately grown green field about a hectare in size with fences, flowers, hedges, and a monument. How do you describe the impact of the 4 double rows and 4 single rows of pure white marble stones? Approximately a score less than 1,000 resting Canadians. I walked along the rows reading the names, tender inscriptions, and the few known only to God. Except for, what a cougher. Except for the 10 graves of a bomber crew shot down in 1943, every stone is inscribed with the date of August 1942, the 8 hours of the 2nd Canadian Infantry Division's raid on Dieppe. I returned to the main monument and looked back into the setting sun. Long shadows stretched across the grass from each brilliant white stone. The rays between each of the double rows of stones gave the anomaly of pink, shimmering brightness. That effect was immediate and swift. The stinging mistiness swept across my eyes, causing them to squint into the glare. The rising ache in my throat could not be cleared by a salutary cough. The tingle swept from the top of my head down my spine and paused to tremble across my heart. Unashamedly, I wept. This is so sad, so many in their 20s, the ages of our sons, said my wife, offering another tissue. All the pain of mothers, wives, and families lie here. For a couple of hours on April 24th, 1999, I knew the men of the Dieppe raid, those fallen, passed on, and still living. It is an honor to have visited with them, not to canonize war, but to honor that Canadians face a horrible struggle for peace. All Canadians need to go to Dieppe. Anyway, I'm sorry I cough.
That was great, Bruce. Are you all done there then?
Yeah, that's the picture of the Dieppe cemetery.
Wow.
Anyway, when I turned to look back, I couldn't believe the pink shimmer in between all those stones.
Beautiful. Wow. Yeah, it's one thing to read about those events and that, but another thing altogether when you're standing there on the soil and seeing the graves and everything else and going to the beaches, etc. It's incredible. My wife was just mentioning that her grandmother's brother actually survived Dieppe. He was was there. Yeah, so
I
great.
couldn't actually believe that anybody would think of landing on a beach that was just that small.
Yeah,
It's been unbelievable.
yeah, we don't know what courage is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for that. Does anyone have any questions they'd want to ask Bruce before we move on? We could take a few minutes if anybody's got anything to do with what he read or about his writing or anything.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Bruce. When did you go? When was it that you went over there?
1999,
Okay.
April.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had landed in Zurich, timeshares, so we were in the mountains, Switzerland, Austria, and then we went over to the beach at north of Norwich, London, in timeshares for 3 weeks, and then we motored back through Paris to Zurich and flew home.
Did I miss it? Did you have a particular reason for wanting to visit Dieppe as opposed to Normandy or anything else like that?
Well, it's a battlefield. I'm interested mostly in the Second World War. I didn't bother going to Vimy Ridge, although it's supposed to be the place to go. It was on our way to Paris, so that's where we went. Didn't go over to Normandy either, although that's a big battle area.
I've always wanted to go to Dieppe, and just the futility of it and the slaughter of it.
Yeah.
You know, phenomenal. Derek, wife's uncle, he survived Dieppe. Was he taken prisoner then? Seems like most of the guys that survived went as prisoners.
Not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Really interesting, Bruce. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, second time we went in 2005 to Europe. We went to Coriano Ridge in Italy, which is another cemetery site for Canadians too.
Yeah.
I'm a World War II buff. I got a library like you wouldn't believe on the Second World War. So, but it's mostly the battles. I'm not into the gut thrust stuff descriptions.
Thank you.
I see Karen's mentioning in the chat that her father was captured at the Dieppe raid.
Ah.
So yeah, you guys probably need to talk. Karen Faria. Yeah, wow. All right, any other questions before we shuffle on there?
I liked your description of the earlier when you said the coffin train, because it kind of, I mean, the coffin in terms of the tunnel, right?
Yeah.
Because it kind of was nice. I mean, it was good use of the word because you could sort of get a feeling what was coming.
Yeah. Yeah, I was quite surprised. I thought you'd drive 22 miles under but no, it's you board a train, they flash you right through and out the other side.
All right, thanks again there, Bruce. Most enjoyable. And our next reader is, our next featured reader, I should say, is Janet Miller. And for those of you who don't know Janet, she's a very, how shall I put this, imaginative writer. I think that's probably the best descriptor to put to your writing, Janet. And everything that I've read or heard from you has always had just an upper level of imagination behind it and uniqueness. Janet is a longtime writer. She's got a children's book out. She's won many contests. In fact, you edged me out on one of the flash fiction contests last year with your Catwoman story, which was,
oh yes,
yeah, I absolutely had no jealousy once I read the story. I said, of course, no wonder she won. It was fabulous. So I'm going to let Janet take it away. And for those of you who don't know, she happens to be related to a local Port Alberni writer, but I'll let her tell you about that.
right. Thank you, Derek. I have all my thank yous here. Derek, Jacqueline, Carl, Micah, Charlene, thank you all, and Federation of BC Writers, Writers Union of Canada, and Canada Council. So I was going to say, Derek, that I think I met you on a writing retreat 25 years ago. Is that possible? How can we look so young if it was that long ago?
Well, it's possible. Yeah, definitely. My God. Whereabouts was that, Janet?
Sisters of St. Anne in Victoria near
Yeah.
you, Vic.
Right, with Michelle Birch Connery.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Time warp.
You were the only guy.
That's right.
There was all those sisters and all those
Yeah.
ladies.
Yeah.
My book, here's my book, Cross My Heart. It's backwards to me, but I know you can read it. Now, if you know me and I haven't already given you one of these books, the next time I see you, I will give you one because I have many boxes of them. And my sister, who is Linda Thompson, who's her name isn't under her. It says Alexander Thompson, I think, tonight. She also drives around with a box of my books. So if you see her, she'll give you a copy of my book. That was published in 2002. And the year before last, I had 2018, I had a book, a story published in this book, Menstrual Manifestos for Our Times. And many of you will be glad that I'm not reading my story that's in this book tonight. I have 4 stories in this book, which came out last year, Salt and Wild. It's from Shelburne County Anthology, Nova Scotia. And I have 2 stories in here. And Linda also has a couple of poems in this little book. Okay. I will try to read the cat story, Derek. I'm going to start with the darkest of the stories that I've got lined up here tonight. This was a Federation contest a couple years ago, 2 years ago, I guess. And it was 500 words, and they gave us 5 words that had to be in the story. I won't tell you the words until after. And this is part of a collection of stories about Mexico, of fiction. Of course, it's fiction. It's called Brilliance. The second summer I spent in Mexico, in Guadalajara, rain fell once every day, and I had one friend. In Canada, weather rumbled in on heavy cloud, ruined hayfields, and stayed weeks on end. This Mexican rain was intermittent and glorious, relieving the heat and gushing in torrents down the gutters. My friend Marjorie, an American first-year medical school, did not like my husband. With my visitor's visa lapsed, I had no status in Mexico. A frazzled bureaucrat at the immigration office waved us, Eduardo and me, away. He indicated the heaps of loose documents on his desk. Discúlpame, estoy demasiado ocupado. Excuse me, I'm too busy. One Saturday morning, Marjorie and I dipped into El Mercado de San Juan's chaos. We tromped around both levels, eyeing stacks of blankets. I haggled for her. A vendor slicked his hair back and offered 2 for a decent price. Marjorie said, "Pick one, I'll buy it for you." Marjorie's parents paid for her tuition and furnished apartment. "Yes," she said, "I mean it, pick one." A rustic woven cotton in a loose weave for me. Marjorie chose a more refined piece in a lighter yarn. At home, I spread the blanket along the back of the sofa, tucked the bottom behind the seat cushions. The shades of blue and bold white stripe looked striking against the heavy wooden arms and brown fabric of the sofa. Eduardo came home, crossed the living room, and ripped the blanket from the sofa. He threw it on the floor of the spare bedroom. "Junk for tourists," he said. "Pedazo de mierda." I leaned against the wall, my heartbeat ricocheting in my chest cavity. The next morning, we rode the bus to Plaza del Sol for groceries. Eduardo said, "You threw money away on algo estúpido, so we will walk home." I kept quiet, withheld ammunition against Marjorie. I needed her friendship. We started home along the rough sidewalks, heavy shopping bags banging against my legs, uneven concrete, gaps and broken slabs, and attempted cobble here and there with cement, stone, and bricks. I stepped carefully. We didn't talk. I stumbled. My knee wrenched sideways. My grocery bags dropped. Crema de cacahuate and cajete jars smashed at my feet. An avocado split open, ruined. Naranjas rolled onto the street. Eduardo cursed and walked on. He did not wait or look back. Lightning sliced the afternoon sky. Clouds appeared where none had been. The sky turned black. Rain fell and fell. I rubbed my knee. The warm rain soaked my hair and my clothes. I took deep breaths. And then quiet. The rain stopped. Clouds thinned and disappeared. The sun resumed its place in the blue sky. Every single thing sparkled. Shrubs and flowers, weeds, the pavement, the broken glass at my feet. I would tell Marjorie about the dropped bags and the brilliance after the sudden rain. I would not tell her what Eduardo did. I would not tell her what he didn't do. Thanks. The words were intermittent, status, woven, cobble, and avocado. I think because Derek mentioned it, I will now move into lighter reading. Okay, this is called Alba. This was 250 words. Old Alba made notes. Scribble, scribble, scribble. Bus, company, complaining. Park, child, yelling. Sidewalk, two small dogs yapping. Bingo hall, women, cheating. Bridge, man, sack, splash. The writing stopped. On Sunday morning, Police Constable Hopkins, uniformed, official-looking, tall and broad, knocked on the door of Alba's room. She'd seen him coming down the street from her perch by her window having her cigarette. When his boots started up the stairs, she pinched the butt, put it in the oyster shell on the sill. Thought you'd promised to stay out of trouble, Alba. Report of an elderly woman near the bridge a few days ago. That you? Sounds like you. What were you doing? Alba overlapped the front of her gray sweater, pulled it loosely across, adjusted her shawl, said, "Fishin'?" "I doubt that. The report says an old lady threw a sack in the water. You chopped someone up, Alba?" "I was fishing it out of the water." "What was in the sack, Alba? No lies now." "Dead cats." "How many dead cats?" "Almost all of them." "Then what?" "Threwed it back in. What would I want with a bunch of drowned cats?" Both Alba and the constable looked down at a scramble taking place in the fabric at Alba's bosom. The head of a small, fluffy orange tabby appeared. A wide yawn showed all its tiny, sharp milk teeth. The kitten focused its green eyes on the constable's large blue chest and shiny buttons. The kitten hissed. The constable took a quick step back. Old Alba cackled. That's that one. It's funny to read to complete silence. Okay. Here's a nonfiction. It's called My New Blouse. I am in high school, Pemberton Secondary. I am a farm kid. I take the bus to school. My sewing keeps me up late one night. After a scrounge around upstairs in the small side room where we store ancient trunks, Grandma's butterfly quilt that needs patching, and fabric, I haul out a length of cotton big enough for a blouse. I feel the need for a new blouse. We have a whole box of clothing patterns. Mom and Dad come home from the parent-teacher meeting and find me at the kitchen table hunched over the Singer sewing machine. "Why," my mother asks me, "why do you draw horses on your algebra test instead of answering the questions?" Her face droops when I tell her horses will be more useful to my future than the square root of any number. Maybe that's calculus, not algebra. I don't know the difference. "Well," says my father, "you might be right." I stay up after they have gone to bed to finish the blouse. I sew and press and figure because I made the sleeve shorter than the pattern suggested to skip the complication of cuffs. There's enough material to make a ruffle around the neck instead of the regular shirt type collar. When done, I stagger to bed. In the morning, I put on a gray A-line skirt and the new blouse. Down in the kitchen, my mother sees me. "Oh," she says, and turns quickly back to the sink. "That's nice. You're wearing it today?" "Yes, Mom," I say. "Of course I'm wearing it today." I climb up the steps of the school bus and clump my way down the aisle to find a seat. One of the older boys in the back says, "Hey, it's Bozo the clown." I stop, look down at my new blouse. The fabric is a bold red and white stripe. The ruffled collar surrounds my neck. There is a whole character-building day ahead of me. This story is, I wrote this when we lived in Black Creek, where there's lots of wildlife. We live in Comox now. No, there's deer here. There's 10 deer for every driveway. This is called The Rat, Poor Fellow. For a few days this week, there was a rat in my office. As a consequence, that is, the rat being there, I was not in my office. The door was firmly shut, except for the going in and out of my husband Philip with a baited trap in hand. We started with a nice old cheddar, white, and the rat seemed to like that. Being an outdoor type vermin, even though it was unlikely that he had ever been in a house, or Lord knows seen a trap, he managed 2 or 3 times to slip the chunk of cheese off the hair trigger without mishap and nibble it up in the quiet, dark atmosphere of my office. Not a smelly pack rat who would trade me a couple of my turquoise nuggets for a few hazelnut shells. Not a secretive black Norwegian rat, yellow incisors gnashing, fresh off an ocean freighter. Not a sly Mexican sewer rat who would stand up on his back legs, snarl, and bare his sharp little teeth when approached. This one was a run-of-the-mill Black Creek off Macaulay Road sort of rat. Our big orange cat Dodge brought the robust, but not overly large, rat into the house in his teeth, I presume, through the 2 cat doors and dropped it on the kitchen floor. Dodge is usually a laid-back type of cat, and carrying the rat must have been a real commitment for him. I expect he was excited to show us his treasure. So the rat is on the floor in the kitchen, looking feverishly for an escape route, and makes a run for the doorway where Philip stands with me slightly behind, having just come up the hall to see what the fuss was about. I know now what I should have done and in what order. The scream was okay, but I should have shut the 4 hallway doors before I screamed. And my husband should not have been so startled by my scream and should not have tried to stop the progress of the rat by sticking his foot against the door jamb, as rats are good jumpers. So the rat leapt easily over Philip's foot, streaked down the hall, and neither of us turned around fast enough to know which of the doors he had entered. Dodge the cat, being at heart an incredibly lazy specimen, lost interest in the rat. He just couldn't be bothered. I could have withheld treats, but cats don't buy into that sort of give and take training aspect of life with humans. If you will allow me to anthropomorphize, it's more in a cat's nature to reason as follows. Here's a weird 4-legged thing I found outside. You can have it. Yawn, stretch. Boy, do I need a nap. How about my treat first? He's very vocal for a cat. A lot of meowing and eye contact. So the rat was in my office and I was not. Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday night, Wednesday, when we switched to peanut butter and a fancy newfangled trap. Philip suits up on Thursday morning. Leather gloves, sturdy boots, a shop broom, a stick, various bulletin boards and shelves with some idea of building a barricade. For him or the rat, I'm not sure. When he eases open the door to my office, he sees that the snap that occurred in the middle of the night that neither of us heard has done in the rat, poor fellow. It's over for the rat. But for us, there is still Philip on his hands and knees, crawling in under my desk, trying not to crack his head on the corner of the keyboard tray with the nozzle of his shop vac aimed at any errant droppings, and me with my yellow rubber gloves and a mild bleach solution swabbing down anything that might have invisible little paw prints. The cat still doesn't care. He's hunting or napping. I can only see 4 people down the side here. I'm sure everybody else is clapping too. Okay. I have one more here. And this is a story. I like a challenge, and I like a word limit. This is a story around the word verisimilitude, which everybody knows the meaning of, right? The appearance of being real, true or real. She tells you your story. Oh, it's called amoxicillin, just in case. She tells you your story. What you say happened between you and Roger totally lacks verisimilitude. How dare she, you think, the old bat? Ricky asks you later while you navigate the icy sidewalks, do you even know what it means? And you say, no, but it sure sounded like an insult, didn't it? First chance you get, you trudge through the snow down to the Sally Ann, and for Pete's sake, some of the dictionaries don't even have the word V-E-R, V-E-R-I. You find it, finally. Rip the page out, put the dictionary back on the shelf, and instead score an ancient cookbook with a faded photo of a big, fat, golden brown turkey on the cover. Memorable feasts. You shell out the $2 and slog home. Not home, really, but to Ricky's cold, dumpy apartment, where you're only staying until you figure out if Roger wants you back or really meant all those things he said when he found out about Ricky. You were mostly hoping you don't mix up their names, call Ricky Roger, or when he's speaking to you again, Roger Ricky. It's all very complicated, and not just the names. Now Ricky, who is no genius, has invited Vera, his mother, the insulter, and his shiftless stepfather, Clive, for dinner, and you are supposed to know how to cook the 18-pounder that has been sitting on the counter for 3 days, thawing, hopefully. The turkey Ricky won at the Legion meat draw. With the relic cookbook propped against the hulk of the bird, you calculate weight, oven temperature, length of time, stuffed or unstuffed. You don't know what that means, so you pick unstuffed. 375 degrees, 4 hours. Maybe lower the temperature to avoid burning. Maybe longer in the oven. If it gets cooked too soon, it can just sit there and wait. A jellied salad is a side dish. Orange Jell-O powder and grated carrots. Easy peasy. You've seen yams, all yellowy, colored with long, twisty noses like rats. Those you'll cook up in the microwave the day before. Turnips, apparently you cook the heck out of them, mash them up with butter and brown sugar, and cover them with a thick layer of marshmallows. Potatoes, too boring. Turkey gravy out of a package, brilliant. You brave the snowbanks, return to the Sally Ann, grab the dictionary, sit on a saggy green couch and research. Salmonella, food poisoning, gastrointestinal inflammation, typhoid fever, and septicemia. You could be wrong, but you're guessing the turkey dinner, this particular memorable feast that you shall concoct, will demonstrate your intentions verisimilitudinously to an astonishing degree. You decide as a precaution that you and Ricky will each take 4 amoxicillins that morning. You will slip their powder into his coffee, just in case. As well, you'll send a prayer to the gods who may or may not exist to protect you and Ricky from harm. Roger will not be present and will not require protecting. Vera, uppity, smug, pompous Vera, and Clive the slouch, they are on their own. Thank you. I did it. I read all of them.
That was fabulous, Janet. Thank you so much for that. Delightful. Anybody have any questions they'd like to ask Janet?
Come on, Jackie, you must have some.
Totally do. I want to know, are you working on you're so great at this short stuff. Holy cow. I'd love to read a novel by you because I'm sure it would just be dynamic and full of fun stuff. Are you working on a novel?
I am. I've put the short stories into an interesting novel form, a novel form.
Cool.
I think I need more details on the novel form. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
So it's
Well,
going
thanks,
to be
everyone.
a collection of shorter pieces that have a narrative thread that join them all, or a thematic thread, or
A narrative overlooking the entire piece, a narrator, right.
oh yeah, cool.
And I've never done it before, so I'm researching who's done it,
Well, maybe
how
you'll
it
be,
worked out.
yeah, maybe you'll be breaking new ground there. Who knows? You'll have to
Hope
invent.
so. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Janet. That was fabulous. All right, I've got Jule Briese next on my list, but I'm not sure if Jule is here.
No, I don't think she's here.
No.
Unless she's going by a different name.
Okay, if you're here by another name, Jule, you better speak up or lose your spot. Not hearing anything? Okay. We're moving on then to Joe Lunchbucket. Bob, are you ready to go there?
He's there somewhere.
Yeah, just need.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can. You betcha.
Okay. As in biblical times, temple prostitutes, even virtuous men, did lure. To elicit support, do leaders for membership, ladies of night procure. Young painted women pant outside hotels, itching for a call. Give room number, and for $100, for 15 minutes, they ball a doll. Pot and booze, numb brain, zombies attend convention and do it again. Do leaders prefer it this way because their rule they can maintain? Even after much debate, resolutions that get passed at convention often get lost in back rooms. Was it hoax and planned pretension? Somehow they find funds to get a party room and to pay the bar bill. Is this where the real convention business is done and the rest is swill? When mates go to convention, are wine and carousing main intention? Were drunk youths conned to pass seniors free pass service pension? If members knew if members knew how conventioneers act, would they pay them to go or fire them all and, like corporations, get a board of directors and CEO? Okay, I got one more here. Modernists claiming that rhyme is passé have not awakened, not examined it in the light of day. They've forgotten from whence their memory came, learning to count or recite ABCs in song or game. Just as sugar makes medicine less of a curse, historical dates are palatable in rhyming verse. Hysterically patriotic fervor poets could incite, foment rebellion, to storm the Bastille, fires they'd ignite. Though rhyme may be considered stuffy and unspectacular, unlike cliché and rap, it's the people's disciplined vernacular. Intellectuals laud free verse. Will it withstand the test of time? Romantics claim it bastardizes poetry's hybrid rules. Does choosing beer over champagne render us fools? English majors must see the forest in spite of the trees. The media as a message is a bit of McLuhan expertise. We elect new party mostly because the last government was sleaze. If supply and demand determines market's commodity price, is mod poetry, ballet, and opera subsidy our national vice? Is entertainment or Medicare priority, life-saving device? Do we shun the barbarian and don the emperor's new clothes? Shall we snub our nose, our culture's snobbery expose, and let nature's nectar attract the bees to pollinate the rose?
Thank you, Bob. That was enjoyable. Plug in there for rhyme verse. Let's get it. Okay, I've got our next reader here is Kathleen, and I got to get to my gallery view here, I think.
Oh.
Gallery, there you are, Kathleen.
There I am. Okay, I'm unmuted.
Good for you. Go ahead.
All right. It wasn't until almost spring that Star agreed to stay over at Anne's house again. And Anne was more than a bit worried about what would happen this time. Anne had told Margaret that if she played dead again, she'd kill her. But Margaret said it didn't matter because she was going to a friend's house and Star could have her bed for the night. Anne's mother said that was better because only poor people slept 3 kids to a room, sometimes even in the same bed, which was why they got whooping cough and other horrible stuff. Anne's mother was even letting Star stay over on a school night because that meant Star would have to leave early the next day. Anne also made sure Star knew all the rules for the dinner table this time. Not that Anne's father would ever hit Star with a fork, on account of the rule that parents were only allowed to hit their own kids. Star says nobody should hit kids, not even parents. But then Star lives with Linda and Larry, the poor kids who don't wear socks in their shoes, and maybe that's another idea of the poor people. Anne and Star couldn't play outside skating on the ice that Anne's father had made next to the garage on account of the early thaw had turned it all to mush. But they could play cootie indoors, and by the time they were under the covers, ready for sleep, Anne was relieved that nothing bad had happened this time, or so Anne thought. Anne awoke to the loudest thud she had ever heard in her entire life, and her bed started rolling across the floor towards the window. Margaret's bed, which had Star in it, also started rolling in the same direction. Star was wide awake now. Just as the beds hit each other in the wall, Anne's mother flung open the door. "Get up, you kids, and push those beds against the far wall." Anne's mother then shoved the dressers, desks, and cupboard up against the beds to keep everything on the far side of the room away from the window. "Now you kids get dressed. I don't want you missing that bus for school." What happened? The cellar wall fell down on this side of the house. I was just hanging the wash up in the basement when luckily that fool dog of yours started barking, and I had to go back up the stairs to let him out before he woke up the whole house. As I got to the top step, I heard a giant thud and turned around, and the rest of the stairs was gone, and almost the whole cement block wall on this side of the house was caved in. That dog saved my life. Why, Mommy? Why would the wall fall down? All that melted snow coming down from the fields and the woods. What do you think? Water and mud can't be stopped. Now that's enough talking. Get going. Anne and Star dressed as fast as they could and joined the morning bathroom lineup, and then had their breakfast. Frank's staying home with your father to help him put some 2x4s up before the whole house caves in. Anne, you'll have to go to Frank's teacher and tell her he won't be in school today. Anne hated going to the classroom where the bigger kids were, but Star said she'd go with her. Anne stared at her shoes. My mother told me to tell you my brother can't come to school today because our house fell down and he has to help my father. Luckily, the bell rang and Anne and Star backed out of there before that teacher could start asking questions. Anne's mother was at the door as soon as Anne got home. What did you tell Frank's teacher? I had phone calls all day from people wanting to give us clothes and pots and pans because our house had fallen down in an avalanche of mud. How could you be so stupid? I mean, were you behind the door when the brains were being passed out? No, it wasn't me, Mommy. It must have been Star. Well, then I don't think she can come over here anymore. Not if she's going to tell stories like that about this family. The end.
Well, fabulous, Kathleen. Is that part of a longer story or a novel? I mean, it feels like it could be another Angela's Ashes.
Yeah, it's an ongoing thing about Anne and this kid Star, who is a bit nervous about Anne's family.
Beautiful, beautiful. Wow, excellent. Love the writing. Excellent. Okay, let's hear our next one is David Kipling. Again, I gotta flash over to see if David's around.
Eric, he's with Kathleen.
Oh, he's with Kathleen.
Yes,
okay. All right, coming back. There you are, David.
Am I on mute? Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. You bet. You go right ahead.
Okay, I got a little message saying that I can run over.
Oh, yeah, you're not on mute.
Okay, this is a letter. My dearest Fernando, midday my time, and I want to say some things to you quickly while I can, because this flight is in big trouble. Perhaps if they get the problem solved, you and I will be able to read this letter together at home in Vallelunga. Perhaps. It feels silly trying to write while things are so bad. The airliner is running out of fuel and we're mid-Atlantic and it won't even reach Portugal. I love you and you're in my heart all the time and I know I'm in yours. I will always be in your memory and especially in your heart. I love the way your hair curls just above your ears and your eyebrows, how they dip when your forehead wrinkle. You're just like your dad. That's why I fell for him. If Father Alfieri were eavesdropping on this, I'd say things like, I will be meeting your dad soon in heaven. And if you like, you can imagine that. It does no harm. The Padre's not such a bad man. There, I got a big flash of fear just then, like when a furnace door swings open. See, even your clever managing mother is feeling a gust of panic. And scribbling this, what a scrawl, so unlike my professional script on all those engineering drawings and completion documents. Don't worry, the aircrew are being marvelous, half bravado and half professionalism. It reminds me of when I was in Argentina 2 years ago, monitoring the new turbines and the penstocks in the Punta Negra Dam. The needles suddenly went right off the dials. There was a runaway release in one of the tunnels that we were working on. I looked at my two technicians and then they looked at their local men on the pumps and damn it, we were all grinning like clowns. Can you believe it? And then the youngest technician from Italy with us, a guy named Santi, said, if you don't mind, Signora, I'm first up that ladder. One of the local guys did die down there, though. We were all expected to live, even that man. Today, we're all strangers in this plane and not many smiles around me. What's wonderful is how the passengers are thanking the flight attendants, touching their hands or patting their arms as they go past. The chap in the seat behind me just asked an attendant to tell the flight crew that we were all happy and proud to be flying with them. Isn't that kind? There, the captain's just shut down our starboard engine. They know what they're doing. These planes can fly just fine on one engine. They train all the time for this. More, the captain just said fuel leak. A significant one, he said. Significant. We're 4 hours out of New York. Half of us are discreetly in tears. Me too, of course, a little bit. I hope people don't start to panic and thrash about when or if the worst happens. I don't think I could take it, seeing people, perhaps me, behaving like, well, I don't want to say animals, at the end. Wouldn't that be horrible? Don't worry, I will remain me, Chiara Fontanesi, a mama and a civil engineer, a gardener, and remember, women's motocross champion of Collegio District 1992 and 1993. How about that, Fernando? You have a bragging mama. Best of all my proud things are marrying your dad and you being born and growing up and being such a super young man. Even if you had become anything different, a store clerk or a soldier or a violinist at La Scala, or just Fernando with no job at all, it wouldn't make any difference. I would be just as proud of you and love you just as much as I do right now when you're breaking all those hearts at the Ministero Agricola. If we crash, though the kind pilot has been saying land, it will be in the Atlantic, and I'm engineer enough to know that at 500 knots into the ocean, it's less than a second. And I'm woman enough to know that really, what can bother a person in a second? I won't hurt any more than you did when you rode your bike into that pile of cement bags in Luigi's workyard. When you were, what, 15? You were out like a light, and you didn't feel anything for 15 minutes. I won't feel anything ever, just a concussion and no time to hurt. I think our pilots are both men, and they've never given birth or had a bad monthly, so they're probably more frightened of pain than I am. What strange things we think about, non siamo? We're still an hour and a half from even the coast of Portugal, never mind Italy. Too far, I'm afraid. But the captain says he's adjusting our course for the Azores, just in case, because they're a little closer for us, out in the Atlantic. Yes, me and your dad always said we'd go to the Azores one holiday. That was before his illness, bless him. Mario was a good man, you know, as well as a good dad. In case you think I'm sounding too rational and detached in all this mess, I promise you my heart is breaking over and over because I miss you and I want to stay with you another 40 years, and because I know you will have lots of sad and angry and horrible feelings. But the pain in my heart proves how much I love you. Nobody knows their love for certain when it's a happy day anyway, but you know it for sure on the very worst day, and I know my love right now. The air in here is getting stale, so I reckon they've reduced power on the non-essential systems. The lights are dimmer too, though a potentiometer doesn't make much difference in electrical terms, so it must be a kindness on the part of the crew, not to have bright lights on when, you know. Sorry for this untidy part. I had to rip some blank pages from a book, but I must keep writing. It helps to keep writing. What will I do with this anyway? I will fold it up and put it in my purse and wrap my arm through my purse straps 3 times. That's what, just so you know. Paper folded twice, then my arm 3 times, my right arm, my throttle arm, brum brum, remember? Methodical Mama Pontanesi. They're reducing airspeed now, so they must be balancing airspeed and fuel consumption, factoring in altitude and air density at different altitudes, of course. Technical compromises. Every project is built of technical compromises. See, I would love to be in there with them in the cockpit and help with the figuring out. Planes are miracles, and the atmosphere is a miracle too, because this thing must weigh 200 tons, cruising along up here in the sky. Rolls-Royce turbofans, that's what we have. Think about the engines. Silly, aren't I? They also make hydroelectric turbines too, Rolls-Royce. I wish I was back under the Punta Negra Dam right now, even with that flood. I wonder if it's sunny or grey near the Azores. Would it be any worse to be gone if it's grey? I don't mind a grey sea, just for a second. The Lord gave us all the weather, right? So it would be ungrateful to complain about it at the moment of you know what. Why did I say the Lord? For a moment there, I felt very thirsty, and I wondered whether it was proper to ask for some water, or something stronger. Isn't that funny? Same for the bathroom. People have been going to the bathrooms in the last little while. Why bother going to the bathroom? Isn't it silly? And aren't human beings odd? I'm glad to be a puzzle, and to have lived my lovely puzzle of a life with my husband and son there in Vallelunga, among the very worst vineyards in all of Italy. That's your mama being funny. Promise me you'll have a big glass of Signor Biaggi's awful Sangiovese on my birthday each year. And on this day as well, 24th of August. What a silly date, 24th of August. Please God, our last engine has flamed out and we have no more power. The lights have gone out. Sweet Fernando, I'm so happy. Ciao, your loving Mama Chiara.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I just, woo, that was powerful. Thank you, thank you, thank you for that. I just got to plug in here before my computer dies. Got it just in time. Ooh, okay. That was very moving, gripping. All right, just before we carry on with the next reader, I just want to remind everybody about a couple of things that if, in case people check out or people are coming in who are listening, who are thinking maybe they want to read or something, that we are asking you to email ahead to get on the reading list. And so you just have to email to Electric Mermaid Reads at gmail.com, and that's in the chat, I believe early on in the chat if you need to refer to that. And also just a reminder that Char's Landing needs your support to keep going. So you can always send a donation through e-transfer. That's e-transfer at charslanding.com, and keep Char going, and keep this venue happening online, and one day hopefully again back in the flesh in Char's Landing. So thanks again for that last reading. That was beautiful, David. Much appreciated. And now I seem to be missing a reader 6 on the screens, Karl. So do I go to reader 7?
David. So the next one is Libbie. David was number 6.
Oh, David was 6. That's what it was. Okay, that makes sense now, of course. All right. So my dog's excited. Libbie, can't wait to hear you. I'll turn it over to my comrade in writing crime. Go ahead, Libbie.
Hi, it's nice to see everybody again. You guys, it's lots of fun. I'm going to read a couple of pieces. I'm working on a collection of stories that I use COVID as an excuse not to move forward on them. And I'm going to be combining short stories with a cookbook type of format. So the 2 pieces I'm going to read will be matched with a corresponding recipe, which I will let you know which one it is after I'm finished. So the first one's a short poem, and it's called Thank You, Irving Layton. I do not know what dragons eat, wayward offspring, I suppose, like little caped red or that fat-headed Hansel with his pig-nosed sister in tow. Do dragons chomp, or do they snag with curved back fang? Does their hunger stem from the scent of young sweetness or rumble from a moon-phased pang? I do not know what dragons eat, their scats I've never found, but golden pears, I tell my brood, grow from dragon nesting grounds. My squalid young have gone to gather, stomachs empty, shoeless feet. And as I bolt the door, I want to whisper, I know what dragons eat. And that one's going to be coupled with a bone broth recipe. And the second one is more of a short story. The Freedom of Swings. I have a 5x7 serrated edged black and white photo pinned to my corkboard. I am 5 years old, sitting on a swing. The one with long metal links, the kind that would pinch your fingers, the ones that could rob a child of the joy of flying. It had a wooden seat that bit into the back of the thighs as if conspiring with those links. My mother is in her mid-30s in the photo and is pushing me high up into the air. She is wearing her favorite skirt, a full-length chenille trimmed skirt. I remember that skirt. It was a washed out gray and it reminded me of curtains. I knew she had prettier things, like the blue sparkly dress that changed its shine when I rubbed it backwards. The bright red long slinky one that reminded me of a tomato all lit up, in that chocolate-covered sweater that was as soft as a rabbit's foot. They all hung close to each other in the hall closet, the closet I was not allowed to play in. Once in a while, she would let me stroke her coats while she gave me a nature lesson. I learned early on the difference between silver, and blue fox, and that I must not touch them with dirty hands. One of these special things was a long dark fur that looked like a wide scarf, but it had a head on it. Its mouth was open, and it had scratched up blue glass eyes. It never came outside with us. I remember thinking that maybe it did not want to be compared with the other common coats and dresses, but spent its time whispering stories to the moths hiding in the closet, especially about the Persian lamb hanging towards the back and how it was made. That story was not for sissies. She was glamorous. Even when she wore the curtain skirt, she never left for the park without getting ready. I would watch her. First, she would put on her fire engine red lipstick and then tap her fingers to her mouth and dab her cheeks to give herself some fresh mountain air. I already had seen pictures of those cheeks, how they used to glow under feathered headdresses and jaunty hats when she was on stage. She rarely wore slacks, preferring to show off her dancer's legs and her delicate feet, the same ones that went from ballerina point shoes to shiny bejeweled heels on countless dance floors. I used to look around the playground and think that no one else could push me so high on the swing. No one else could be dressed up so pretty. Who else could, after all the glitter, sparkle, fur, and feathers had faded, be able to show me how to keep my fingers away from those things that could bruise me and destroy the pleasure of soaring? And that's probably going to be paired with chicken noodle soup. And because I think I'm just about 5 minutes, that's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Libbie. And yeah, chicken noodle soup, perfect pairing with that. All right. Okay. Next in line, appropriately, is Vicki Drybrough, another partner in writing crime. Go ahead, Vicki. You're still muted there, Vicki.
Is that better?
That's better.
Okay, here we go. This is about food, and it's a little bit lighter in content than a lot of stuff, but it's called Fortune Cookies. Have you ever noticed how most people in a Chinese restaurant read their fortunes and toss them aside? Maybe they trade them with someone at their table, but most people don't show much of a response to the vague message that comes out of that bland little cookie. And quite rightly, who can get all worked up about good times are in store for you when you've just lost your job? I took my brother-in-law out for Chinese food. He'd been unemployed for 15 months and had just lost his house. Happiness begins at home, said his fortune. He was depressed for days. I think people want to read fortunes that are more specific. I know I do. You will have good luck in money matters does nothing to fire my imagination. But $50 on Lucky Lady to win in the third at Exhibition Park gives me something to think about. Let's go back to my brother-in-law. He finishes his meal and opens his fortune cookie. It says, "Beware of speeding Land Rover filled with intoxicated librarians." He laughs and it takes his mind off his house. Where did fortune cookies come from anyway? If you guessed China, you'd be wrong. They didn't show up in China until the 1990s when they were called the genuine American fortune cookie. Their true origin is widely disputed, and there are many versions, but the one I like best goes back to the 14th century when China was ruled by the Mongols. They enslaved great numbers of the population and forced everyone to pay crippling taxes. Many Chinese lost their homes and businesses and lived on the streets begging. Chinese patriots planned a revolution, but they needed a safe way to spread information under the ever-watchful eye of the Mongols. At the time, the Chinese enjoyed eating mooncakes, small cakes of baked dough with yellow lotus paste in the middle, which the Mongols disliked. The Chinese replaced the paste with rice paper messages and spread their plans of revolution. The uprising was a success, and the Ming Dynasty was born. Every year after that, the Chinese people celebrated the revolution with the Moon Festival, when they would exchange mooncakes with happy messages inside. Centuries later, Chinese laborers working on the American Railway and living in isolated camps had no access to mooncakes. So they made a plain biscuit and put a happy message inside. Years later, this became a cottage industry and was eventually taken up by Chinese restaurants in San Francisco and other cities. I like that story. It shows ingenuity and self-reliance, something I think a fortune cookie should encourage in a person. Today, you can custom order fortune cookies for weddings, birthdays, showers, even corporate events. They are available in every flavor known to man, from chocolate-covered black raspberry to fruit punch, coconut, and even, God forbid, bubblegum. Plain fortune cookies sell on the internet for 45 cents each, and one company will send you a box of 500 for $49. Of course, if you want to go big in true American style, you can order a giant 1-pound fortune cookie, hand-dipped in caramel, rolled in toffee, drizzled with Belgian chocolate, wrapped in cellophane with a matching bow, complete with a foot-long message for $34.95. Which makes me wonder, who writes the fortunes that go into cookies anyway? Probably a computer. Well, the last thing I want is some machine giving me advice. I have relatives who do that, and I don't have to buy them dinner first. What we need are real people working on these things, people with hot tips to deliver. Imagine an ex-stockbroker in the kitchen stuffing handwritten investment tips, buy pork bellies now, into fortune cookies. Across town, another restaurant might hire a disgruntled ex-bank employee. The combination to the safe of the RBC on Oak Street is 72415, or the password to Walmart's online banking empire is Sam I Am. I, for one, probably check out Grab and Run Sale, Costco, 1 a.m. Thursday, ask for Eddie. The possibilities are endless and give a whole new meaning to fortune cookie. Makes good times are in store for you kind of lame, doesn't it?
Beautiful. Thank you, Vicki. That's even better than I remembered it.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so we're cruising along here. Our time's a little tight. We got lots of readers lined up yet, so I'm going to go straight to the next one. Chris isn't here with us, so Craig Copland. Craig, take it away.
News. All right, I am now unmuted. Okay, great to meet all you folks, and I'm thoroughly enjoying the incredible variety of talent that you have out there. I'm in Vernon in the Okanagan. I write what are called Sherlock Holmes fan fiction, and I've been doing that for the last several years. And the story I'm just going to read a few pages from is hot off the press. It just came out in the annual anthology of Sherlock Holmes stories published by a publisher in the UK. And we were asked to pick up on a story which is mentioned in the canon of stories, but is not actually described. So they're called the unpublished cases. And this is now the adventure of the Abergavenny murder. I'm going to try turning my iPad around so that you can actually see my screen and be able to follow it online as best we can. Is that working for anybody? Okay, here we go. Royston Giles Tambleton III paid a visit to 221B Baker Street without an appointment on the morning of Saturday, 4th May, 1901. He was a handsome young fellow with flawless pale skin, well-combed hair that was blonde on its way to brown, and straight, gleaming teeth. He was dressed in a blazer and flannels, a creaseless white shirt, and expertly tied old school tie, and his polished boots. Had I bent over to inspect them, I could have seen my reflection. Okay, I'm going to pause here quickly. This is narrated by Dr. Watson. Sorry, I should have mentioned that. When he sat down, he gave a small tug upward on his trousers and kept the material from stretching over his kneecaps, and he exuded the confident manners that come with excellent breeding and demanding schoolmasters. When told by Holmes to state his case, he succinctly told us that in the middle of the night, 2 nights ago, he'd been walking to Regent's Park and had witnessed a murder. Did you indeed? And did you report it to the police? Asked Holmes. I did. They refused to believe me. And what about your family members? You must have told them. I did. They also refused to believe me. I was, I must admit, not at all surprised to hear about the reactions of either the police or his family. I knew that Holmes would be of the same mind. The reason, of course, was that Royal Giles Tamblyn III was 12 years old and had already acquired something of a reputation in certain circles of London. The previous autumn, Strand magazine had hosted a contest for schoolboys and schoolgirls to write an original mystery story. The panel of judges, of which I was one, was given the submissions to read and assess. The names of the authors were removed so that we did not know who had written which story, or whether it was by a boy or a girl. The magazine, however, neglected to limit the number of entries to any young writer could submit, with the result that some industrious scholars sent in 2 or more. When the results were revealed, Master Royston Giles Tamblyn III took 1st, 2nd, and 3rd places. His stories were frankly brilliant. The characters were singularly colorful, his twists of plot deceptive and thus delightful, his settings overflowing with imaginative details, and his grasp of English vocabulary and grammar at a level that the editors of the Strand would have been thrilled to see coming from much older writers who preferred to serve the commas spliced and their infinitives split. I had expected Holmes would respond by curtly assuring the lad that he would look into the matter and send him on his way. He did not do that. Instead, he carried out a rather intense interrogation and questioned the boy for half an hour. Where did this happen? Asked Holmes. In Regent's Park. Where in the park? Be precise. In the northwest corner, 20 yards southwest in the intersection of Avenue Road and the outer circle. When? At 22 minutes past midnight. What were you doing out in Regent's Park past midnight? Taking my dog for a walk. 12-year-old dog owners do not take dogs for walks after midnight. What were you doing there? Holmes can be quite intimidating when he wants to, and I expected the young fellow to become hesitant, if not cower. He did neither. He paused, as if ordering his words, and replied calmly, Sir, I am an author. As Dr. Watson will tell you, the best place to find characters and plots is by observing people in real life. There are many events that take place in our parks late at night that I secretly observe and record. They become material for my stories. I walk through the park several nights a week. It has been quite useful. Do your parents permit this? My parents are currently in Rangoon in Burma. My father is employed in the Foreign Office and serves as a military attaché in that post. I live with my grandparents. And they let you wander out at that hour? Well, they are elderly and retired at 10:30. I leave and return silently without disturbing them. Do you? Very well. Describe what you observe. Be concise and precise. I had spent the previous hour walking my dog. Around the circumference of the park, and what's your dog's breed and name? He's a border collie. I call him Berkey. It's short for Berkshires. My grandmother named him. That was my grandfather's regiment. Dr. Watson will confirm that they fought with distinction during the Second Afghan War. Holmes glanced at me, and I nodded. I was in the 66th Regiment, the Berkshires, during the Battle of Maiwand. I would not have called our defeat and desperate retreat distinguished, but that is what the lad wanted to believe. I was not about to correct him. Keep going, said Holmes. We had almost returned to Avenue Road entrance to the park when I saw a man approaching us. He was still some distance away and had not seen us. I stepped into the copse of trees beside the path so I could observe him. And as he was passing the road, a man jumped. Stop. Describe the man you observed. The victim. Yes, sir. He was on the tall side, almost as tall as you, sir, broad-shouldered, not at all portly. The night was cool. He was wearing a pea coat and a workman's hat and walking smartly. His age. Getting on a bit. About the age of you and Dr. Watson. His shoes and trousers. Dark. His boots were polished, military style. I could see the glint of moonlight reflecting in them as he approached. Did you see his face? Well, not clearly, sir. His cap put a shadow on the upper part. He had a full beard, but neatly trimmed. Did he cry out? Call for help. Oh, no, sir. It happened too quickly. He said something, but I cannot say for certain what it was. Then say what you think it might have been. Well, it sounded like sic semper tyrannis, but it is possible. I'm letting my imagination take over. I cannot be certain. Okay, I will stop there.
Man, but we're running over time here and we've got lots going there. So appreciate that. That was engaging. Wonderful to hear new Sherlock Holmes stuff, that's for sure. There's never too much Sherlock in the world. Okay. All right. I think I've got Terri down as my next reader.
She is not here.
Terry's gone. Okay.
I don't think she ever was here. It was too bad. She wasn't going to be she was supposed to be a mermaid.
Ah, okay. All right. So Desmond, I've got Desmond up then.
Yes, Desmond.
Can you hear me okay?
Sure can. Go ahead.
Okay. This is just a segment from my book I'm writing. Witches from Gdor believe that in the beginning chaos, the god of all disorder, and Princey Ortuna, the first goddess of fortune, procreated and gave birth to fraternal twins. The beautiful baby girl was called Gaia, and their other child was called Tyche, who became the deity of fortune and prosperity. Tyche was the very first true hermaphrodite within a universe that was yet to come into existence. A fatal attraction took place between the two siblings that caused the display of incest across the universe. Similar to volcano acoustics that give off audible sounds of an impending eruption, Gaia screamed out labor pains that warned of a universal burst from her vaginal canal. Tyche stood by anxiously waiting to fulfill the fatherhood role by imparting chance and success onto his planetary children. In a fraction of a second, planets and stars streamed out and randomly took up residence in the universe. A waxy white-like substance that was used to protect the planets while in Gaia's womb covered each of the newborn children. Tyche removed the substance and proudly stood back, providing independence for each of the newborns to grow on their own accord. Gaia, my beautiful wife, I wish to impart precious gifts on a select few of our children. Gaia looked at her loving partner. I fear many of our children will eventually burn up and die or will never have an opportunity to flourish with life. Please do what you must for the survival and well-being of our family. Tyche took in a deep breath and expelled fortune and prosperity on a selection of planets and stars. Fate smiled greatly on Earth as its atmosphere was layered with expelled breath that would provide it the help it needed for life to begin. Most people believe that fertility is based on the number of chromosomes in the male and female species. In witchcraft, fertility is not only based on chromosomes, but also in how much appreciations can be distorted and mangled into an indigence that is deprived of all self-worth. Ability to conceive is partly measured by the strength of abominations created by mutilated appreciation. Simply put, the greater the appreciation, the more hope a witch has of procreating. Some time ago, Zilda has been searching for a new besom, which is simply a broom made up of tied twigs. Since the main purpose of a witch's broom is to represent fertility, she knew that it was essential to find one before she had an opportunity to procreate. All true witches have an ability to turn themselves into beautiful female species that entice male species to make sensual sex. Once a female child is born, it is taken to Gdor, where it is raised as a witch. If the child is male, then it is up to the witch if it will be aborted. All non-aborted male species are raised as either wizards or warlocks on their own planet. Zelda knew that children folklore are revered greatly upon human beings, and that by distorting an animated character that is respected worldwide would cause a mutilation that would give her great strength. After a thorough research, she decided to infiltrate a well-known folk tale that is known for hope and happiness. The tale was none other than Rapunzel. Once inside the story, she was able to kidnap Rapunzel and drag her to Gdor, where a series of spells were used to change an animated character into an inanimated enslaved figure. The abduction forced the tale's ending to change to an ending with a dead prince and a princess held eternally captive in a strong tower. Children worldwide mourn the loss of hope in a princess that once provided happiness and joy. Originally, Rapunzel's long blonde hair that was intended for magical and restoration powers was changed to being used to sweep the many floors of Zelda's residence. Not being content with the corruption of the folktale, the headmaster decided to work in conjunction with other demons for Rapunzel to be used to sweep away goodness from Dean's life. That's it.
Super. We needed that one for Halloween. Thanks, Desmond. All right. Okay, and lost track of, we have somebody who got added on after that. Who comes next there, Karl?
Actually, after him is you, Derek.
Oh, and that's it?
No, and then we have Judy, Judy, and then Don.
Well, let's let Judy and Don go first, and if there's time, I'll finish up at the end.
All right.
So Judy, let's put you on the screen here. Hit your unmute button.
Yep.
There we are.
Okay, just read a few short poems. I'm new at this, but I did get one poem published in Island Writer, which is literary journal produced by Victoria Writers Society. Okay, this one's called Can't Even. And you'll probably recognize the rhythm. You can feel the balance shifting. Rushing rivers push the boundaries. Verdant bands of shore retreating. Weeping willows draw a breath. Every day a story breaks. Talking heads pollute the stillness. Fill the air with tainted rambling. Nothing thrives in broken trust. I can feel the pressing sadness as it courses through my body, seeks the path of least resistance, surfaces in trite remarks. All the while, I pass for normal, and I am, save for the ripples, all the ripples of disturbance that belie this calm facade. The second one, I'll take you back to summer. This is called Garden by Night. June air is warming sweet, promise of languid summer nights. An honest gesture, if not for clouds that override the sunset on these the longest days. The tidal pull on full moon nights draws me to celestial shores, to moonlight bathe, to sway in billowed fairy gown, silver glowing and delirious with unrestraint. In my nocturnal garden, when all else sleeps or seems to, I sense the transit of the beetle, the moistness of the leafy tree, the scent of yellow roses in the dark.
Beautiful. Thank you, Judy. I needed that little burst of summer. We all need a little tranquility. Awesome. Thanks so much.
This one's called Away. Do I have time to read another one?
Yeah. Char, are we okay?
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, we're good. Go ahead, Judy. Sorry.
Okay. One more then. This is called Eyes Closed Trilogy. Comfort. I close my eyes, the universe appears. It sweeps across my inner lid, soothing, settling, smidge of bliss, reprieve from staying real. Clamor. Mantra stills my worried mind. Breathing in, I calm myself. Breathing out, I smile. A halting inner smile of late. For chaos has eclipsed the calm, displaced the fragile joy. Now shadows overtake. I close my eyes. Context. I often wake up happy, except on coulda, shoulda days, or days that catch me up in waking dreams, or maverick thoughts that amplify the things I cannot change. Some days I wake up happy.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Dawn, I think we've got time to get you in there. If you're handy, come on.
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for having me last minute. I know I should have registered prior. I really didn't have anything to read, but I just wanted to share a few things that have been happening. Thank you to COVID, I've been able to focus on some projects that I feel have been relevant and impactful in their own little way. As you can see behind me, the wave is still ongoing. We have posted episode 70 as of yesterday morning. We have posted episode 70 on our YouTube channel, featuring an interview with Bodie and Carol Thompson-Gardner, who are a transgender and lesbian couple, a non-binary couple living in Salt Springs, and are coming over here tomorrow to celebrate the Transgender Day of Remembrance, which is today. And they are hosting an event with Pastor Minnie Hornidge of the United Church, Port Alberni United Church. And they're gonna have some kind of campfire side chat or conversation about the experiences of the transgender community. And it's kind of sad because I just learned from Bodie and Carol that the latest reports were there are about 30 plus people who have been murdered just because, for no cause, for no reason. They have been murdered just because they were transgender. And this is still ongoing in this day and age. And I'm just glad and I'm just happy that I live in Canada. Our COVID situation isn't as bad as our neighbors down the south. And we have so much to be thankful for. In spite of COVID, we have been able to focus and put our attention and time to things that matter. Especially in my part, I am just blessed to be in the company of my mom, who's 80 years old, and she can still kick my butt. She has no lingering illnesses. She's just like minor diabetes or something. And one day, I was complaining to a friend of mine, saying, "Oh, my mother's so hard to get along with. She complains about everything. She's so negative. She's even pro-Trump." Okay, so like I'm living with somebody who loves Donald Trump, but she's just that. She just has to be in the opposing end. And my friend said, "You should treasure those moments with your mom and start recording her." And so that's what I did. I started recording her, unbeknownst to her. I have my recorder on my phone on, and we talk about, you know, stuff like, "Oh, why do you love Trump? Why do you hate? You don't like Biden?" And there was one topic we discussed, well, like, was my father your first boyfriend or fifth boyfriend or seventh? Actually, it turns out my father was her seventh boyfriend, and she had a strict type. They had to be tall and handsome. All of her 7 boyfriends were tall and handsome. And even at 80, she remembers their first and last name and what course of study or profession they were involved in. The first one was a law student in the University of the Philippines. The second one was a musician. She knows their first names and their last names, down to my father, who was a mechanical engineering student in the same university where my mom got her pharmacy degree. Anyway, I am kind of preempting myself because you should, for those of you who don't follow me on Facebook, I'm very active in social media. And one of my upcoming posts will be, somebody came up with an idea, like, these are precious times. Like, we should be thankful for the time that we have. And so I said, I should do something while my mother's still with me. I said, I'm gonna think of something like we can do every day on a daily basis. So far now, it's going to Walmart and Save-On and No Frills and all the grocery stores. Every day she's in a grocery store. There's no more room in her refrigerator, but still she keeps on buying this stuff and buying this stuff. But that's her outlet. But on Monday, Mom and I are going to our first yoga class together. So the 2 happy widows of Port Alberni are going. Mom's 80, I'm 57, but we are going with matching outfits to the power of 3 for our first yoga lesson. It's gonna be a blast, and you will hear all about it. You will hear all about it on my posts on the wave, which is because this is gonna be part of my wave. My wonderful Alberni Valley experience is living with my mom, who's 80, and we are both having our blast, a wave. The wonderful Alberni Valley experience. My mom, she made me lemon with honey. Okay. to drink from my cold. And there are spring rolls available. You just have to PM me for your orders. Anyway, I just wanted to do a quick update with the group. Again, thank you for having me. The Wave is posting its a brand new episode tonight on Shaw at 8 o'clock. It'll air, where we will be interviewing Anita Sutherland pre-COVID, when she was talking about her battle with cancer and all that stuff. So it's going to be an interesting interview. And the four hosts, Carol Ann, myself, Jeff, and Jessica are going to be talking about our wave, our personal wonderful Alberni Valley experience.
Well, great, Don. Looking forward to it, man.
And then Nancy picked up our second show, which is Queer View Mirror, which is going to be aired on Channel 4 and on the Blue Sky Network. And we're so happy for that. Show has expressed interest. So our first episode, which is the pilot episode, which is a gay pilot interviewed, aired last October. And then our second episode with Erin LeBlanc, the transgender advocate, a very powerful and strong ally of the transgender community, who wrote her book and was second in the Amazon launch in July 22. Was also for our second episode. And Nancy Wilmot of Shaw is just so happy to share it and promote it. So there, so far it's The Wave and Queer View Mirror, and coming soon is, I don't know, I'm spreading myself too thinly here. Yeah. I was invited to join a group that's putting up a foundation or a society that's gonna help address this very...
Could I get you to post that in the chat? Because you've gone way over the 5-minute limit here.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, okay.
It is.
I'll do that.
And people are going
just go to our page, Alberni Wave and the Queer View Mirror, and you'll get all the information there. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, man. All right. So I think we got everybody.
Derek.
There, I'm unmuted now.
Sorry, Derek.
I think we got everybody in that was supposed to read for tonight, and I will give you just one short poem to send you on your way. And I think it's kind of fitting with what Don was saying about being grateful for what we do have, and that we live where we live, and that we're surviving what the world is going through right now. So this is called Gratitude. It's never too late to be grateful, whether for the small kindness given in a grocery line or for the larger gift of breath that floats us through this life. Some learn it young, especially those who walk on hunger's coals. Others stumble on it as one by one the organs close up shop. My friend Vic discovered his a few weeks before the brain cancer took him out. Seizure-ridden and jagged with pain, he said the spackle of rain on the sidewalk had never sounded so beautiful. The brush of leaf shadows on the window painted ecstasy in motion. While we, the walking dead, blow curses at the rain and assume each breath, others grow into little children as they age, see eyes in the cedar trees, hear the breathing of the grass, divine the light in all things. We have to ask what it is they know that we forgot in this never too late moment to be grateful. So let me finish by sharing some gratitude to all the people who made this happen. First and foremost, of course, to Char for hosting us, and reminder, if you can help her out with the e-transfer, it's in the chat there. Also, big thanks to Karl for looking after our technical aspects. Big shout out to Jackie for lining up the readers, and to Micah for his support in the photography department and for getting Luma whipped into shape. Wonderful to have this good-sized group and such wonderful reading happening on our inaugural presentation tonight. So that's it for this month. We're going to be back in the third week of December. My goodness, that's going to be really close to Christmas, isn't it? So December 18th is what Jackie's telling me in the chat. Friday, December the 18th, 5:45 Pacific time, we'll get together with a 6 o'clock launch. So until then, I hope everybody gets some good writing done, and spread the word about this to all your friends. And don't forget to register at electricmermaidreads@gmail.com to reserve your spot for next time. And there could be quite a demand on them, so best to get your name in there early so we make sure everybody gets a chance to read. That's about it for now. Thank you all for coming, everybody.
Thank you, Derek.
I'd like to thank Derek for being.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
Well
you.
done.
And Bruce for your featured readings, and thank everyone for your readings. Beautiful stuff. Take care.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Colleen, for having
Colleen.
Micah
It
too.
was great. Great.
Nice to see
Fun
everybody.
night. Fun night. Yeah.
Right all.
Till next time.
Take care, Libbie.
Time. See you next time. Stay well, everybody.
You too.
Yes.
Everyone.
Yes.
Take care. Lovely. Thanks.
Right. Thanks again, Bruce. Thank you, Char. We love you.
Wherever you are.
Wherever you are, she's there.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Very nice. So you can stop the recording now, Derek, or I don't know if whoever's doing that, I guess. Who does the
Char.
Char.